Thanks very much. It's a very interesting session where we are talking now about interventions and collaborations, which is really what we need to do. Because every time you talk about climate change, people ask you, what can we do? It's here with us. What can I do? So the first thing that I would want to start with is the traditional one that we talk about of tree planting. Unfortunately, when environmentalists started this call in the 80s and 90s, before the effects came, there were all sorts of reactions to it. Climate deniers, they said it wasn't there. And nobody for a long time really thought that we really needed to plant as much trees. Wangari Maathai, I think, was one of the biggest person that we crucified when she was asking us to do what we now see is a necessity. So the natural long-term solution to climate change from the mitigation front is actually tree planting. And that's why, and I'd want to start by thanking the president, because I have nicknamed him as the climate champion 001. I think before him, not very many people understood climate change for what he has made us now know, even as laymen. So the very first thing that we need to do as a country, as individuals, is to do that very traditional task of just picking a seedling and putting it in the soil. That's the only sure long-term intervention that we have. And that's why you see that the government now, and Resa allowing me, the ministry is now coordinating the planting of 15 billion tree seedlings by 2032 in a space of 10 years. What this means is that annually, we must deliver the planting of 1.5 billion seedlings. Cumulatively, in the 10 years, the government looks to restore and rehabilitate about 10.6 million hectares. I hope I've helped to break it down. I know we keep saying 15B, and you wonder what that is. So 15 billion in 10 years, 1.5 billion every year, January, December. And to the individual, it's been calculated that if you plant 30 seedlings in a year, by 2032 we are there. So it makes it easy, I think. And I hope even those of us now viewing and watching, as who always keep asking, what can we do? Just ensure you plant 30. Divide by 12, how many in a month? We can work the mathematics. Do we now see that it's practical? Because sometimes when the president and the top level government talks about 15B, we start feeling like a David Goliath moment. How can I achieve 15B? Bwana DG, just 30 in your name. Divide by 12, you can do like 3 every month, and there we go. And you know, we say these things and go away and do nothing about it. Wangari Maathai told us that unless you dig that hole, put the seedling, cover with soil, we are just talking. And it will catch up with us like it has caught us just a few months ago. So the first and the surest that environmentalists tell us is tree planting. Of course, there are the other mitigation interventions, like ensuring we have clean technology in manufacturing, including moving electric and reducing fossil fuel usage in transportation. I'm just digressing into that because there was a question. There's also even the whole household shift of cooking technologies to clean technologies. So it's a myriad of things that we can have another session to discuss. But tree planting, I think, is the surest that all of us can pick up. The second, I think, speaking from a KWTA perspective, is to support communities to have alternative sources of livelihoods. Because most of our livelihoods as a country are climate dependent. If you think about the rural areas, they're climate dependent. So one of the surest ways is to scale up nature-based solutions so that we can have communities exploiting natural resources that are around us, but in a sustainable way, so that they also have some form of income, so that they can adapt better to the effects of climate change. We've done that as an organization. We've recorded a lot of success. Like I told you earlier, we now have communities who are producing organic honey, you know. They can even access international markets beyond Kenyan borders. So if we develop these value chains, and this is now where collaborations come in, madam, because as an organization, we can only do so much. I think from our time of inception until now, we've supported communities with about, I think, 3,000 beehives now and processing equipment. But these are solutions that we have tested. They work, but now they require scaling up. So if there are any partners in this room, because you said it's a collaboration, we are saying we have tried and tested methods that can support communities socioeconomically, and all we need now is to scale them up, help them to coexist in a good way, in a sustainable way with the environment. The other one that we cannot run away with are the issues of energy. Because as long as our communities are relying on the traditional energy sources like wood fuel, it means that the trees that we are working hard, Bwana Digi, the 30 that you will plant this year, their chances of them living on are going to be slim. Because my grandmother in the village relies on that tree to do what? To cook, and she must eat, isn't it? Are you going to tell them there's climate change, don't cut and cook? The children have to eat. These are things that mothers worry about every day. So if we now start to think of investing in clean energy sources, and there are multiple ways. We've had now a shift from charcoal to briquettes, for example. Kenya Water Towers has supported some communities to produce briquettes from waste. And as long as it is bio-waste, you can use coconut, you can use wheat straws to generate briquettes, so that you don't have to depend on charcoal and so forth. I think the last one that I'll now talk about is on education. The climate change subject, as you must appreciate, is a very complex scientific subject. And I must own up that some of us who are scientists have done very little to unbundle what this actually is. Because you will hear those of us who are in the scientific world talking about climate change, global warming, greenhouse gases, methane, nitrous oxide, things that are mind-boggling, yeah? There's been very little effort to break down the complex science of climate change and even now make communities, because, I mean, if we passed this mic around here and ask how many of us know the difference between methane and nitrous oxide and where they come from and greenhouse gases, very few of us would be able to articulate that. If you thought about our grandmothers and mothers in the village, they have very little understanding of this complex subject, yet the effects are here with us. So one of the areas of collaboration that I see, Madam, is to have a national kind of drive to simplify climate change and contextualize it in a language that people can actually understand. And this could even be having it in our local FM languages. What does climate change mean to Samburu people? Do they have a local name for it? Can they start to have a local name for it? Can they now look at the interventions that they need to do at a local level in their own traditional and local way without necessarily worrying about these big jargons that scientists like myself have to deal with on a daily basis? So that's the other area that I see, because people can only respond when they understand. But now, before we break it down to a level that they can understand, how do we even expect them to respond? Yet most of the discussions we are having here are about response. So I think the first and the surest is to demystify and break down the complex scientific language about climate change to the local language that people can understand so that they can respond. And I must say that there are many ways in which this can be done, and that can also be a discussion in other contexts. Thank you very much.